Cross your fingers.
I think we might be live.
Okay. Well, at least I'm live with you, Kim.
We can do so much good together. How about we bring in a few others?
Let's do it. Okay, well, Kim, we had a good idea recently, not surprisingly. Sometimes these good ideas bring about some pretty cool things, but we have some summit coming up in, man, it's
a month.
Basically a month away. And
yeah, so excited.
This is something we had to postpone, live last year, and we're really excited to get back in person. But we wanted to take some time and talk about what we're experiencing as advisors in this new era, new economy. There's so much going on right now. It's just crazy sometimes, but we see so much hope and opportunity. But really, where our desire to do this live stream today, it came from some of the obstacles that advisors are facing, and there's a lot of consistency there. It is a hard time, and I believe, as we understand the principles that we believe in to an even deeper level. It's going to be exciting, because I've figured some stuff out that I wouldn't have been able to had I not gone through the last 12 months of challenge. I know you feel the same way, right? Because we know, I would say the first thing is, like, we know how frustrating it is when, we study, we go to trainings, we learn about software and products, and then we connect with clients, and we present, and we have solutions that we at our core believe will benefit them, only to be rejected, right, and discarded. And I've seen some experiences recently where advisors put so much effort and time into prospecting, into marketing, and get to the table with the client, and they have basically all the solutions that the client could ever wish for, and are still rejected and discarded. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, I can. And, I was just talking with Elizabeth the other day. She's on our live stream as well, just cheering our advisor community on. And she listens to a lot of the advisors and some of the struggles that they're having, and was sharing with me a story. There's a advisor, his name is Jake, and he chose to tackle asset flow. And he just went all in on this client that had quite a few different moving parts, really decided that asset flow was going to be the thing to help this client take some action. He spent hours and hours on it, and he was learning, so he wasn't able to go through it. I mean, I think just even like 5 or 6 times in, it'll be much faster for him, but this was his first time. And his whole goal was to build in certainty for this client. And after his proposal, they didn't want to do it. They couldn't give him a good reason, even. Like, we like you, but it just doesn't feel right. I just wanted to cry with him.
This happens quite a bit, but recently, one of the guys that on our team that is so smart, like, it's one of those guys that just gets it, right? And usually they have background in some sort of accounting or economics or math, and it's pretty much the same story, where great initial connection, from what I was told by him, and tons of work. And I actually saw the document that he put together that was about 10 pages long, and it essentially addressed all the different pieces of their conversation. It addressed what they were trying to accomplish. And it used asset flow. It used other parts of the truth concept software and brought it to the table. And not only did the client say, this isn't for me, he basically said not to contact him again. And this, this advisor he's like, what did I do wrong? Like, I did everything that I was trained to do. Like, what's going on? I mean, and maybe some of you that are listening to this can relate because it's going on more and more these days. And, looking at some solutions that we found so that this doesn't have to happen is, in relation to the connection you have with clients. It's something that one of the speakers at Summit has spoken to a number of times. And I think this year it's going to be even more relevant. Vince Dodona, I still remember the story he tells of this massive client who he spent, a really good amount of time building the strategy, used his parallel paths process along the way, and used it really with the team that this guy had, which included, the CFO of his company, his personal accountant, an estate planning attorney, a corporate attorney that he had. And I remember Vince talking about going into the room, this big boardroom, and he, observed the room, and then he basically gave a copy, of the strategy as well as instructions to implement the strategy. And they were expecting him to go through the whole thing. And he basically just walked out of the room. And he didn't do it from, the standpoint of hubris, right? Maybe there's some of that in there. For those who have seen Vince, that seen Vince and heard him speak before. But I think he did it because of the level of confidence he had in how he builds connections with clients, how he gets to the core. Because I think sometimes, Kim, we often assume that clients can connect all of the dots, right? They can take what we've established, whether it's an asset flow or other strategy software components, and assume that they can understand the connecting pieces and how it relates to them and what it can do for them. And that's the challenge, right? It's not necessarily about your knowledge of strategy, tax strategy, income strategy, et cetera. It really comes down to the connection you make with the client, the connection you make to what you are setting up for them and how it's going to benefit their life. And then also be able to communicate that in a digestible way. And sometimes that's something that is focused on least, but that's where I'm excited because Vince is back this year, right? And, who wouldn't want to learn from someone who can enter, a situation like that would intimidate most of us. Okay, enter into the room and be able to have that level of confidence. And it was a seven-figure implementation, and it didn't require really any sales pitch at all. Is that interesting?
Yeah. Well, you said three important words. Maybe I counted wrong. What it can do for them. Okay, that's 6 words, but never mind that. What it can do for them. And it's so amazing how all of us, I've been helping people with their personal finances for 30 years. And it doesn't matter what event I attend. It almost doesn't even matter what the subject matter is of the event. But I find that I learn new ways, better ways, more succinct ways to get the message across of what it can do for them. Clearer, quicker, which is what Vince had happen, and more efficiently. That what it can do for them part. And it's hard. We have to have all this financial knowledge and the nuances of our products and et cetera, but then we almost have to forget that when we're in front of a client. And I remember Vince sharing at another summit with an advisor that was struggling, but I know all this stuff. And he said, stop knowing all that stuff. Just be with the person. And it's hard to learn how to just be. And I know at the summit, we're going to be covering some of that, because you and I and Todd as well have learned over time, and sometimes had to relearn, how to help people get results, how to just be. We're called human beings, and I think a lot of times we forget that, and we think that we're actually human doings or human knowings. And so this is going to be a big part of the summit too. And I feel like it's something that we all kind of don't want, in a way. Like, we think we don't need it, and yet we've seen that's where you get the results.
Well, Kim, I'll hit on something I experienced recently. I went through this 4-day intensive that was put on by the most decorated Navy SEAL in history. He was the commanding officer for SEAL Team 3, and was a Navy SEAL for 10 years, did over 200 missions, some of the most crazy missions during the second Iraq and Afghanistan. Uh, he is a powerful individual, and the focus of this intensive revolved around the internal desire that everybody has to be a part of a team, work within a team. But there are words, there are phrases, there are things that prevent teamwork, prevent connection, that most of us aren't even aware of. We got to remember that the majority of us were educated in a school system that did not advocate teamwork. We don't realize how that affects our lexicon, our vernacular, the words we use, how we communicate with people. And even though we may have all the solutions in the world, all the knowledge of strategy, and whether it's tax or investment or insurance or income, you could have all of that. And if you use the wrong words, it's kind of like those words penetrate to the subconscious level of people and immediately say danger, 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 danger. And that's where I think Vince has really figured out and has taught us. I mean, it's been a miracle for me, because I've been able to connect with really high level clients and hardly talk about numbers and talk about strategy. We talk about results and outcomes and principles. And then all of the financial strategy work goes on behind the scenes, right? And then when we present, there's so much of a connection there that it's become very similar to the experience that we just described with Vince walking into that boardroom and having that much confidence. I don't even think it's confidence, because the connection, the credibility, the words that were used strategically throughout the entire process were already known and believed, and therefore the decision was already made before they sat down in those chairs. And that's, again, I look at some of the challenges that are being faced by advisors, and I see how much work and effort and energy and focus and money goes into being successful, right? But it's really, it all goes to the 20% of the equation, right? It's Pareto's rule. It's like 80%. The 80% is, well, I would say that's 80% of it all, right? But it only has 20% efficacy, right? Where the 20% of the effort, which is really in what we're talking about right now, it has 80% of the impact. So these are some of the things that you're going to walk away with at Summit, which is really exciting. Well, one of the other things, Kim, as we've been talking, we're brainstorming on, okay, what else is going on? What are advisors experiencing? And I know you have some personal stories around this, but I know, for me at least, the frustration that I hear and see is when you have existing clients, right? Clients that have already done business with you, and there's so much novelty and distraction out there right now, and marketing and influence, and how marketers and influencers are able to use psychology and big data to just get into people's minds and get them all stir crazy, it puts into question the business that we've already set up. I mean, man, talk about a frustration. So I know that you can relate to that experience.
I feel like there is people talk about Google gods. Well, there's a gimmick of the week god. And I love that there's a lot more conversation now about whole life out in the marketplace. But holy cow, the gimmick of the week, they come in 4s and 5s. I will get 4 or 5 emails from all separate clients, existing clients, just me personally, my own client base. And the gimmick of the week is tax-free income, or the gimmick of the week is I don't have to pay my loan back, or the gimmick of the week is the 90-10 plan. And they come, the gimmick of the week is IUL instead of this whole life that I've already owned for 10 years. Oh my gosh. It comes in droves, and it's super, super frustrating. And I handle it mostly on email. Sometimes I get on the phone as necessary. I try to gauge the severity, like the seriousness of the person, because sometimes I think they're just kind of like floating a trial balloon to see, or they're just legitimately curious. Whereas other times I literally think that their finances are at risk. And so I'm actually coming to Summit hoping that some other people have experienced this and can help me with this. I'm supposed to be the hostess of the event, but I know Todd says this all the time. He comes to the event to learn. Yes, he's on the stage, but the value of us gathering together as a community of whole life friendly advisors and having each other's experiences and listening to what other people are doing, sometimes that's more valuable than whatever is presented from the stage.
Yeah, I remember, it was just recently. I mean, going back into quarantine and shutdown, people had so much time on their hands. And I remember talking to a client where I think he has 8 kids, and he's been a client for over a decade, and he just brought on a new CFO to his company that was also helping him with his personal finances. And they were setting up some structures for their business and their employees, 401k plan, a profit sharing plan. And the CFO just made him, I mean, he sent me a text at like 1 a.m, right? And it just probably didn't sleep that night or the night before, right? But put all these questions and doubts in his mind. And that right there hit me, because that's obviously something that none of us want. At the same time, we have to be realistic that what we do is unique, what we do is different, and it's going to be called into question, period, in the future. And that's where some of the, whether it's video or marketing pieces or ways in which you deliver strategy and the components you put in there, there's some solutions that we figured out. And Garrett Gunderson is going to be one of the speakers. And this is something where, because of how much he puts his name out there with his New York Times best-selling books, as well as his intense marketing efforts, Garrett gets, probably 100 times the feedback that most advisors get in regards, right, to calling into question these principles, these strategies, what we've set up. And so if you guys can relate to these experiences, or relate to these emails, relate to these texts, okay, this is, again, some of the focus we're going to be putting on the experience you have at Summit. Now, Kim, I mean, there's maybe one more thing that I would love to talk about. This is at least something that I've fallen short in the past so many times. It's crazy. But it's when, that frustration of seeing, money, lots of money, time, energy, focus, copywriters, where you have this idea of what marketing could be, a checklist, it could be a survey, it could be an ebook, it could be whatever. right? Where you put all this effort and energy into it, money to market it, and then it falls flat on its face, right? I remember I was all excited about this ebook, right? Of how you could, investing in yourself, right? And if you focus, it really used the max potential calculator, and it showed like, if you could figure out a way to improve your income every year by 8 to 10% instead of just getting the typical raise of 3 to 4%, right? That investment would pay way more than any other investment out there. And it totally backfired on me. First off, the marketing fell flat on its face because it was a little too over people's heads. But then I remember my employees, people that work for me, specifically in marketing, were asking for raises. And it was, I mean, I should have seen that. But again, the point of the article was really, you invest in yourself to improve the value you provide to a business. You don't just go and ask for a raise. Anyway, it totally backfired on me. And it was insanely frustrating. So since then, that was several years ago, but since then I've, figured out ways in which to market that aren't necessarily my perspective, right? It's really looking at what clients and prospects are going through, how to look at their specific profiles, look at, what are the common things that keep them up at night? What are they going through? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Right? Where are their frustrations? Where are their anxieties? Right? And how to position marketing around that. Tom Wheelwright typically comes and speaks at Summit based on tax strategy, and he's going to be there specifically talking about cryptocurrency and the different things that are happening in regards to taxation. Obviously, the IRS has just is increasing their budget by a huge amount of money, doubling staff in order to do more audits. And it's going to get crazy, but he's going to speak to that. He's going to speak to what's likely coming down the pipe in regards to changes to the tax code that are going to affect investors, affect business people. But he's also going to speak to marketing. Tom has done a great job at marketing recently.
Yep.
Because I remember initially, Tom had some challenges, right? Super smart, is around really smart people. Some of his clients are, in this echelon of wealth in the United States that is really high. And yet his marketing wasn't connecting, and he finally figured out a few things that connected. And so he's going to speak to that as well. And so if you guys are relating to this experience of trying this marketing technique and trying this novelty, and maybe this will work or this will work, and all your time and energy is going into that only to fall flat on its face, I mean, that's something else that you can expect at Summit, is learning from those who have been there that can teach you some of those marketing principles that will help you to identify what are the true marketing opportunities that are going to set your business apart. Kim, can you relate to any of that? I mean, you are similar to me, where you've tried a lot of things. You have like 10 books, I think. Like, what are some of the things you faced marketing wise, right, that you thought maybe you were just going to crush it and knock it out of the park, that didn't end up working out so well?
Well, I'm
what did you
actually,
learn from that?
I'll share a Todd Langford story. So he has been going through Tammy Brannan's bullhorn message system. So Tammy has her big process, which is called the blueprint process. There is no way Todd was going to go through that. But he was willing to go through her little miniature bullhorn message system. And so he got clarified for himself some really critical foundational aspects of who he is that can now be verbalized. And Tammy calls them his bullhorn messages, like, think like you're talking with a bullhorn and sharing. And I kid you, last night he said, I don't think these are going to do any good. Like, these are just for me. That this is not, there isn't anybody else that thinks this way. All, especially all four of them might have somebody thinks like one of them or two of them. And I said, well, I think Tammy's going to tell you from experience, and many people in this community already have benefited from Tammy's good work, that the marketing that you do that is about who you are is going to get you more value than any other specialized marketing anything, ebook, physical book, and you have your own physical book too, obviously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so Todd's like Tom Wheelwright in a way. You know, Todd is not a marketer. Todd has a very specialized skill, thank goodness for him. And yet at the same time, he needs to do marketing. And so it's been interesting for me to watch kind of at a distance. I too have watched Tom Wheelwright's shift, and I'm very excited for Todd to have a shift. And that shift does not come easy. And so Todd's going through it right now at 58 years old with 30 plus years in the business. And it's not the first time that he's gone through this. I think this is kind of like a lot of aspects of our lives. We have to go through kind of a growth period, and then we go through a flatline period, if you will. And then sometimes we loop all the way around and go way down, but sometimes it's just more of a gentle slope. But if we're not doing that, we're dying. And I completely separately had somebody say to me the other day, I think I'm going through a midlife crisis again. And I said, you should be going through one about every 10 years. That's what shakes things up and wakes you up. And so I know the value of attending an event that sometimes causes that to happen. And I think it goes one of two ways. Sometimes I know when I go to an event, I get in the gap. Like I feel so out of sorts. I feel so sometimes even depressed. I feel so inadequate because all the people at the event are doing these cool things. And then there's other times I attend an event where I'm like jazzed and energized and fed, and I feel so capable because of all the good material. So whichever way you as an advisor are thinking that you might feel right now, we have a home for you. Because sometimes being in the gap and that depressing, oh my gosh, I'm not capable feeling is what it takes to get you to the next level. And sometimes it's more the inspirational, yeah, I'm doing it. I just need to do more of it or whatever is what it takes to get you to the next level.
Well, Kim, recently, because what you just said strikes a few chords. Recently, I was at a kind of a business mastermind that I joined a few months ago, and they use a tool called Predictive Index when they hire employees, and it's really a screening process. And then from there, they use other tools like Colby and Myers-Briggs. But this Predictive Index is really interesting because what it does is it identifies who you believe you are as you show up to things, but then you do the exact same thing with how others perceive you when you show up to things or show up to life. So who you believe you are when you show up to life and what others believe about you when you show up to life. And most of the time, there's a lot of conflict there. And to maintain a facade of showing up as someone who you're not, which I think all of us do to a degree, right? The more you do it, the less connection is possible. And sometimes, again, going to marketing, we integrate into our marketing, right, some conflicting principles, whether it's in the words that's used, the messaging, the overall feeling of it. And really it gears more toward us, right, unknowingly than it does toward those who we are trying to serve. And that's where Tammy is brilliant, right? Because she helps you, and she's going to speak to how to identify your authentic self. So that's how you show up to life. And right there's so much harmony in the way in which you're able to connect with people. We don't realize that, right? I think we're taught on social media that we have to show up as this other person, this alternate, alter ego, right? And we don't realize that when we do that, it kind of subconsciously triggers other people. this Navy SEAL training I went to, this intensive I went to, there's only 5 guys last week, right? They used the kind of concept of Inception, with the movie Inception. Have you seen Inception? I know Todd has probably seen it. I actually want to watch
I
it with you.
have, but remind me what it is.
Yeah, so Inception is it's a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he has this special set of skills where and it's fiction, of course, but he uses this military technology where they have uh, joined dreaming. So you basically like enter into a dream with other people, right? So you like kind of hook up these machines, and then you all have this like shared dream. And in there, the point, of this training is that there's a lot of attacks, like people fighting, and it represents the subconscious. It represents when there's conflict, when it represents there's conflicting principles. They're using these weapons, and they have like full military, like going after what is infiltrating the subconscious. It's pretty fascinating if you think about it. But even though it's a fake movie, it's a fictitious movie. And to my knowledge, that that technology doesn't exist where we could share dreams. But still, there are some principles in there that are interesting, right? Where people's subconscious, it's working at analyzing who you are. What do you want from me? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? Like all of that's kind of going on unknowingly, unconsciously. And sometimes I think we forget that. But when we put out marketing, we speak to people, we do a sales process. When there's conflict there, okay, we don't realize how much of that completely shifts the conversation in a person's mind to not what you're saying, but who is this guy? Is he trying to hurt me? Is he trying to attack me? Is he trying to, like, what does he want from me? Like, I need to. So again, it's one of those things where we don't realize how powerful connection is with regards to our marketing, okay, with regard to our sales presentation, sales processes. So that's another, again, just if you guys can relate to this, or this is striking chords, these are some of the speakers and some of the topics that are going to be presented this summer, which I'm really excited for, because again, we're all learning. There's some things I've figured out that I'm going to be sharing that can, I believe, benefit other advisors. Right. But again, it's the conversations that take place, right? The questions that are asked, the brainstorming that takes place, as a group and as a team and as a community of advisors who share very similar principles, we can take all of our games to the next level. So it's, that's something that's striking a chord. I mean, this is something that we are confident will take advisors' lives to the next level.
It's been so interesting for me to watch the progress that I've made over the years of continual attendance at Strategic Coach. And I go back every quarter for the same speaker. The content is revisited numerous times, and yet every time I grow.
Well, there's some advice I learned recently that I'm thinking about really strongly, because I love to read. I'm very curious about life. At the same time, there's no way I'm going to read all the books that are out there. And there are, a core number of books, right, at the base of where all the other books derive from, if you think about it. And instead of reading lots of books, it's reading the most important books over and over, right, to solidify principles. Because again, I believe our bodies, our mind is wired, okay, in a way where we can't just read a book and suddenly all these new connections are made in our mind. It doesn't work that way, right? It's a continual, effort working to rewire what already exists, which takes a lot of effort, especially, if you've been doing something long enough. And that's hard for people to bite off on, right? Because we're at the same time programmed, especially this day and age, for shortcuts. Click this, click this, click this, click this, the easy button, right? But at the same time, our psychology, not very easy. And maybe, the future, they'll like have some sort of zapping mechanism that just is like, boom, and maybe that'll change. But until that exists, We got to go the normal route, right? Which is continuing to learn the same principles and applying them to the new experiences that we're having in life.
Yeah. And really let repetition do the job that it's designed to do, which is the nuanceal improvements. Nuanceal, is that a word? That's a Kim word, I think. Works for today.
It works for today.
Because I get asked occasionally, like, well, what's the one big thing that you did? And there isn't. It's just slight, incremental, nuanced, there we go, changes, shifts, and sometimes literally as simple as a word. I just learned something the other day, the PragerU videos. So if you don't know about PragerU, PragerU, like university, there's a couple hundred of them. They're all 5 minutes long. They are fabulous learning tools. Each 5-minute video takes $50,000 to produce because of the repetition with which they go through the message, cleaning out single words, making slight shifts and where pauses are. Now, of course, some of that is the actual video itself, what you're seeing, but the verbal aspect of it, and 9 weeks of time for 5 minutes. So when we think about how critical our time is with our client, I wonder how much time we actually spend preparing for that time. 50 grand, 9 weeks for 5 minutes.
I don't know if I would have that patience.
It's incredible.
Well, guys, hopefully you are having an awesome week. It's amazing. I love this spring. I'm really looking forward to next month at Summit. We have some incredible speakers lined up. We were excited for their messages and how they apply to this new era that we are in. Tons of things going on, tons of changes taking place. We're excited to get together. So if you guys want to, I'm sure we'll post it in the comments. I know Elizabeth on the team is there. We'll post the link to Summit. It's here in Utah. It is June 23rd through the 26th. So getting here on a Wednesday, leaving on a Saturday. But we're amped. We're excited. It's going to be packed with good speakers, good information, and I hope to see you guys. I hope to see you guys there. Any final words of wisdom, Miss Kim?
Well, we always want to begin with gratitude. And so I'm super thankful for you. I love the way that you are such a deep thinker. And I'm super grateful for our community. We have an awesome batch of advisors. And I'm super grateful for Todd and not only his software, but his thinking. And this event is just going to be one additional aspect that we can be super grateful for. The learning that goes on, the good connections that are made and remade. And I can't wait to see you there.
All right, Kim. Well, I hope you have an amazing Wednesday and rest of the week. You guys too. Take care for now. Like we said, summitforadvisors.com, and Elizabeth will post in the comment section. So just go click on that if you guys are interested. And I hope to see you in Utah in a month.
Sounds good. See you there.